Welcome back to another video, everyone, wherever you are. Now, we've spoken before about why photography, but in this video here, this one explores why landscape photography, particularly. Why landscapes? Now, I moved from Scotland to New Zealand in 2004 with a then very young family, and I left Scotland at a time where I was working really hard, and the thinking was that we would come to New Zealand, kick back, and enjoy that work-life balance a little bit more. That hasn't really worked out to plan, and I've ended up working harder now than I've ever worked before. I use landscape photography as a serious hard pause on life in instalments. And getting into landscapes first of all was just the way to get away from everything else that was going on in other parts of my life. I know that when I had a stressful job, there was nothing quite like taking the camera and gear, taking off to the hills for a few hours or days at a time, knowing that you couldn't be contacted, and neither did you care. Landscape photography has allowed me to see the world in a completely different way, and I've done photography professionally for a long time. But landscape photography has changed me. It's actually made me more patient, more appreciative, and much more aware of everything that's going on around me. Now, I'm actually down in the south of the South Island at the Divide. And this is the first part of the Routeburn Track, which is a multi-day walk and reputed to be one of the best multi-day walks in the world. I'm lucky to be living in such a place as New Zealand because it's simply one of the most beautiful countries on the entire planet. And I think too this is a driver for me going out into the field with the camera in the knowledge that I'll get world-class shots because I'm in such a location. Now, this is the furthest most point here from where I started this journey with a 20-hour drive and 1,700 kilometres to get here. This particular place is deep in the heart of Fiordland National Park, and we don't need to look very far to be reminded that we've got some world-class once-in-a-lifetime locations right here on our doorstep. Now, whilst these locations are just a stone's throw away from where I currently am, I'm going to avoid these places so as not to become distracted by the location itself, but to ensure that I focus here on the photography itself. Now, I've actually tried to get up here 4 or 5 times with different groups of people, some workshop people, and because we're in an environment that gets 6 to 7 metres of rainfall per year, it's hardly surprising that we've not been able to come up because of the rain. I came up here once with the video camera to scope this place out, looking at workshops, and it's very tight in my location that I've chosen tonight, and I'll show you that just in a second. And there's no point coming up here, you're not high enough to be above the clouds. It's at that awkward kind of height, you know, you're not below the clouds, you're not above the clouds, you're bang in the middle of the cloud line at 800 to 900 metres above sea level. And the temperature changes really quickly here. I know that it's currently about 7 degrees. My hands are actually really cold because it feels colder than that because the wind is coming towards me straight off the snow. The mountains round the corner here, they're 2,500 metres above sea level. These ones here are probably about 2.2 to 2.5. They're massive. But we're in a Trans Alpine environment up here. And this is why the fauna that we saw on the way up is a little bit unique as well. And the mossy trees here obviously would explain the heavy rainfall that we get.
Now this is the time where our jobs as photographers begin in earnest. We have a choice here whether we either become fixated on the surface details which we see obviously here, or do as I prefer, and that's to spend the next 3 or 4 hours peeling back the layers of this place to fully understand that environment that we're in. Now this involves a complex process of not just looking but seeing some complexity, texture and interrelationships of different parts of this, or microcosm, for the next few hours. Study the hard elements, the soft elements, the strength and fragility together, the scale of the large and small together, the interplay of light and dark in the landscape, listening to the narrative that needs to be told, which you will see more of in the next 20 minutes or so.
I'm going to grab my bag and I'm going to grab my stuff, and I'm going to do what I do, and that's just pick my spot and hunker down. The way that I shoot is I scope around, I pick my spot, I don't move. If I've found my spot, I hog it and I just don't move. I don't move, and I'll only be taking maybe 1 or 2 shots here tonight. Now I know you've been listening to some pretty funky music in the time that I've been scouting around here, which tells you that I picked the music before I've shot this, and that's not the normal way around for creators, but that's what I do. I think it suits what I'm trying to do here. This is the secret sauce, I think, of being here early. I'm looking at the last 15 minutes of sun as I form a relationship with this place, and that's really important. I'm currently looking at streaks and highlights on the faces of a glacier valley. This big mountain's in silhouette with some highlights picked up from the sun going down behind it. There's snow-capped mountains behind there. There's flying saucer clouds over here. And I'm getting sun rays across the left-hand side of this mountain, the light shafts from the sun. And this is just stuff that you can't buy. This is the real ingredient to being here early and forming that relationship. I've already picked my spot. I've just got to get going now and probably hunker down, take my spot, get all my maths done, and just sit and wait. But this is simply incredible. And I certainly wouldn't be up here if it weren't for photography. How weird's that? As the sun goes down over here due west, it's going to project some light, hopefully, behind me now onto the eastern hemisphere. It's just a stunning, stunning place to come and see. There's no bad time. I mean, sunrise would be over here, so it would light up that hemisphere. And I'll try and shoot this way because I want the light source in the western hemisphere to be lighting what I'm shooting, and that will also give us some really gentle, delicate colours. I think this is me here. I'm glad to put this bag down. This thing weighs about 15 kilograms, and then there's all the gear. Yeah, I think this might be quite nice. Okay. And I have my chair. So what I'm looking to do here is just do initial setup. Because you'll see behind me, we're on quite late light now. I'll stick this onto live view because I can do that today. It's actually really nice here. The contrast between the moss and the water, and hopefully at sunset that water is going to go a little bit calmer because it's all about temperature on the ground, temperature in the air, the wind tends to settle. So I've got this snaking leading line through here, which is really nice. And I only brought the one lens with me today, so I'm kind of stuck with what I've got. Tiny movements. Okay, that's probably me set up there. And I'll show you what I'm seeing with this line. It's currently catching light, but that light's about to disappear. So that there is what the camera's actually seeing in 645. There's some free space here, just before that little peninsula, and it zoops away back. And then we've got the opposite of that with the landmass. Come on. We've got the first one linking away back, and then we've got this other one linking away back, a bit like yin and yang. And you can see here that there's quite a bit of dominance through the middle of the frame here. But that's okay because we're going to have the water in the foreground, and the water will reflect whatever is going on in the sky. You will see here that there's some light cloud here in the sky, and this is the stuff, because that's medium to high cloud, this is the stuff hopefully that's going to catch some light. And so the overall visualization of my shot is really important for the way that I shoot. And what I'm trying to imagine here is, I'm trying to imagine this being quite wide, a little bit wider than this, and coming up and placing that central part in the middle of the frame, bang in the middle, and then having space above these mountains for whatever's going to happen. Obviously all this darker stuff that's in the middle here, this is all going to be quite dark because there's no longer going to be light on them. So maybe what I'll do, just as that's catching the last light before the colour starts, if there's colour, just to reserve my shot in case there's no colour, I will take this shot just now with a big camera and just give you an idea of what we're going to take when the light is good, if it happens. Get this level. That's it level, and then we just check the level, and that's green all the way through, so that's good to go. And I'm just again checking my frame with this. I've got enough sky. Yeah, I've got enough sky here that gives me quite a bit of space up top actually. So we're shooting at about 75mm. We're shooting at 20th at f11 at 100 ISO just now, so I'm going to take this and then I'll maybe whack on the ND and try and soften that water. But when we soften the water, remember, we lose the clarity and the reflections. One. Two. So if we've got a 30th of a second, it's actually a 20th, but let's just make it a 30th with 10 stops, that's 30 seconds. But I don't want 30 seconds with this because I'm going to try and stitch them. So if I want to try and lose 2 stops to get that back down to 15 to 8 seconds, I'll take it up to 200, 400 ISO to give me that exposure triangle maths. I very rarely play around with ISO, to be honest. 400. We're going to set that up as 8 seconds. 10 stop on. The focus is already set. Lock everything on. Click 1. It's such a small body of water, this actually, that there's not big waves because it's contained within a small boundary, and that's nice. It's nice and clean. But I'll move quickly so as not to get movement in the clouds. Yeah, and we're just picking up some light on the landscape there. Now it's just a case of waiting for that light, which is just about to go behind the mountain. Now it's a waiting game. Now we're starting to wind up and count down at the same time here. And I know this video has been really B-roll heavy. But the reason it's been B-roll heavy is to try and exaggerate the point of how much thought I give to what it is I see with a view to photograph it. I don't just notice the big obvious stuff that's around here, I notice the tiny things. And that's what photography has done for me. It's made me very aware. And it's changed me, as I said in the beginning, as a person. It's a strange thing to say, it's almost made me more benevolent with my time, which is why I do these YouTube videos, because it's awesome to interact with you all. As long as it's positive. The quantity of B-roll here is just to exaggerate that point. There's no other way of doing that in a 20-25 minute video other than excessive proportion of photography and B-roll. I live in a very beautiful country and it's easy to be vigilant and observant here. But landscape photography is the discipline that has changed me more than any other discipline of photography. I'm very humbled and appreciative for that, actually. I know my kids tell me that it has changed me a little bit.
The return on your investment for the last 3 hours of your time, it's not a linear equation. Exponential are the rewards, like noticing the delicate interplay of light here, or even better, noticing the formation of helicoidal cloud formation. Horrible to photograph, but wonderful to video and to speed up. Now, having seen this build is both rewarding and fascinating as I waited and watched, and made only possible having absorbed everything else.
So if we have a look just now, there's light happening on the mountains. This is incredible. All around us. Look at this over here. And look at it on the other side. There's even mountains that you can't see in frame over there, but that's just beautiful. Oh, look at this. It runs all the way down, all the way to Milford Sound, way, way, way in the distance. That's impressive. That's beautiful. So that's the sun now off these mountains. and it's simply being lit on the highlights here by the soft box off to the west and the western horizon. The sky above the western horizon is still light, which is the soft light landing on that. So the sun is now down, so now it's time to get set up and wait for any light show. So unusually for me, I'm actually I maybe went and took a photograph or two, which is not like me. But I left the tripod in the same place, all locked on, so I know what I'm shooting. That light there all around tonight is just spectacular, and if we don't get colour, it doesn't matter. Because I have learned more about myself and the natural world through my observation phase than I have taken photographs. The photographs is an extra, it's a bonus. Because seriously, being able to sit on my own in an environment surrounded by monsters covered in snow with glacial valleys, it's simply incredible. I've gone and got my head torch ready because I will need that for going down the path tonight because it's going to be dark. And on that hill there before, that light going away signals the start of the colour here, because they just simply can't exist at the same time, as I said before. They can't do it. Science doesn't allow it. I am looking up here though, and these clouds are already grey, which is disappointing. They shouldn't be going grey yet. However, Fiordland's a funny place because the mountains that's all around us, the Southern Alps, they're so high that it looks like sun has set here, but it hasn't. It's just gone down behind the monster mountains at 2,000, 3,000 metres high. And so I'm going to wait for a little bit because the ambient light here is still quite good. It's just remarkable. I love this. Yeah, so that colour's gone. End of the colour show, I think. Everything from there up to here is grey. So I'll simply take this. We didn't get colour, but it doesn't matter. We are on now 1 second, 100 ISO f11. And I will just take this. It's nice though, even with the grey blue sky. I hope the colour doesn't hit when I'm halfway down the track. That's a wrap. This has been spectacular. So just before it gets too dark, I will do my sign off here. I want to thank you all for coming with me on this trip. This has been, it's taken a lot of thought, this one. And I hope I've got my point across. It's been fantastic though to have you along for the journey, and I hope you've stayed to the end. There's a lot more to come from me as I've been given the psychology of my photography quite a bit of thought in the time that I wasn't posting. So until next time, you keep shooting, you have fun, you take care, and seriously work out why you do landscape photography. Until then, from Key Summit, cheerio.
Now, with a photo trip of this length to a location of this magnitude, you may think it's very arty of me to say, but in circumstances such as these, I always turn to have one last look, saying farewell to a location such as this, and thanking it for allowing me to shoot it. This has been fun. Thanks for watching everyone, wherever you are. Until the next time.